data is the differentiator, right? As AI becomes more autonomous, as agents become more autonomous, right? Architecture becomes the competitive differentiator. So this is, I think, where we together, I see the combination of Snowflake and AWS are there to help our customers through that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to DataCon Now. I'm currently in the studio where I'm now delighted to be joined by Geries AbouAyash, Head of North America Solutions Architecture, AWS. Geries, such a pleasure sitting down with you. Thank you again for making the time.
Good to meet you, Ryan, as well. Thank you for having me.
Of course, looking forward to diving in. To start with, how do you help customers avoid implementing AI for technology's sake rather than for business outcomes?
Ryan, this actually reminded me with a story, a well-documented story, which was the electrification of American factories in the late 1800s. Electricity, transformative technology at the time. Factories did the obvious thing. They actually replaced their steam engine with an electric motor. The gains they achieved from that were pretty modest, actually disappointing. Decades later, as researchers started looking at who are the factories that actually were able to achieve big outcomes in the 500 to 700% gains. Actually, they were the factories that redesigned their entire factory operations around electricity, right? So, for example, distributing power where every machine had its own electric motor, putting machines in a workflow, and that actually that was the birth of the modern assembly line. So it's looking at it where the question was not how do we quickly adopt electricity, was how do we redesign our factories where electricity is the assumption. Now, fast forward to today, this is why I think it's relevant. AI is a transformative technology. One of the things that we do at Amazon is we always ask ourselves that second question, which is, how does our customer world look different? We make it better by looking at innovation as the assumption, not as the addition. So we have a process, we call it the working backwards. Every innovative idea, every business we launch, every product we launch has to go through what we call a working backwards press release and a FAQ. So we call it PR FAQ. The whole idea is, who is the customer? What is the challenge we're trying to solve? What are the business outcomes we're looking for? So this really applies to how we are working now with our customers together on, before we even start with adopting AI, what is the business outcome we're trying to achieve? What is the use case? Who is the customer? What are the challenges they're having? And how do we solve this for them? So that's really the foundational thing, is focusing on business outcomes, focusing on the right type of use case. The second thing I would say is, as I've been working with, my team works with thousands of customers, and I call it the adoption gap is important, especially with AI. Are our teams ready for it? Is the enablement there? Do they know really how to leverage this and use it? So that's an important thing. And I'll close it with actually a joint customer of ours, a BMW Group. Again, they started with the business challenge that they were facing, which is how can they start modernizing their operational areas where they make data available to thousands of users. So they unified over 600 data sets across 15 domains by implementing that on Snowflake with AWS. And they were able to bring this to thousands of customers per month that they were able to access all of that data. And that's an example of a customer that we have.
I absolutely love it. Very much gives us a great baseline to dive a little deeper. Thank you for that. Yes. Taking this one step further, which critical decisions today are slowed or weakened because data is technically available but operationally inaccessible?
Ryan, this is what I call the hidden tax on enterprise decision making. The data exists, right? Whether it's structured or unstructured, it's there. The challenge that we're seeing is the operational access to that data. And I'm gonna demonstrate that. I'll kind of share a few examples with you.
That'd be great.
The first one I call the tribal knowledge example. And I'll use the insurance industry business as an example. An insurance company would receive about 200 regulatory data requests per year. And they typically have, I think, maybe 2 or 3 people in the company that know how to access that data because they need to get it from mainframes. And actually, when you look at those folks that have that knowledge, most of them are starting to retire, if not retired already. And so when you look at like simple decisions of being able to provide answers to compliance type questions in a timely fashion, you should be able to do it in hours, maybe minutes. While today it takes weeks and maybe months to get that. So that tribal knowledge is a problem that we see. The second one I would share is, I call it the unstructured data. And, I'll use an example from capital markets. Whether you're looking at bank loans or you're looking at mortgage-backed securities, every agreement actually is different, even within the same bank, right? And this was a feedback that I received from a customer one time where the customer was telling me there isn't a format people follow. They make up as you go. I'm like, okay. Now, obviously, with generative AI, we've been able to, one of the top use cases I see is around intelligent document processing, where we're able to kind of sift through that data, but there should be a better way, right? So investment decisions are delayed because analysts can't efficiently extract terms, covenants, and risk factors from thousands of unique documents. The third example I would share, I call it the metadata gap, okay? This is where we need self-service access to our data, right? And so teams that have data in their platforms, but they can't build dashboards because we don't know what to build. And why don't they know what to build? Because literally they don't understand the data, even though it is there. So that is, I think, a big challenge that we're seeing. We also are seeing this paradigm shift that's happening right now. And this is where we, together with Snowflakes, are guiding our customers through this. Successful organizations let business domain users, owners, own the data as a product. So the question that should be asked here is not, can IT give me access to the data? The question should be, has the business domain designed a reliable product that serves my decision-making needs? That's what we're seeing. Those are the challenges that are surfacing.
Great perspectives and insights. Thank you for that, Geries. And diving a little bit deeper, I want to ask, what's your proven methodology for scaling AI from proof of concept enterprise-wide deployment?
It's a mental model and a methodology that centers on what I call production-first mindset, okay? We don't build POCs that are architecturally disconnected from production environments, right? This is important, like if you go with that type of mindset, because the moment you just build these POCs in silos, like, okay, great, now how do we take it into production, right? That's the challenge. So there are many things we got to look at, which is like, and actually, whether it's latency issues, whether it's security, whether it's compliance, whether it's like data drifts and so on. So the approach follows the following three-phase plan for us, right? First, validate that the AI approach is technically feasible with a thin kind of a vertical slice using production-grade infrastructure. It also includes selecting the right model. When you look at a model like an LLM, we advise customers, start with the smallest model that's going to give you the capabilities that you're looking for, because that smallest model actually will have the right type of a cost that you can manage. And versus if you look at, unfortunately, I see some customers who just want to go with the most capable, the biggest model they can.
Right out of the get-go.
Right at the get-go. And so the cost actually it goes astronomically high. And then two, they're dealing with the latency of the larger top model. So go, again, assess and get the right type of model. The second thing is build what I call the operational wrapper around that. As you're building your POC, have that operational wrapper where monitoring, drift detection, human in the loop escalation, all of that need to be thought of and built as we're doing that in our POC environment. And the last thing I would share is establish an internal AI platform team that can abstract away the infrastructure complexity. Because you want to be thinking of, here I am, I'm going through all of this learning of building this, my first use case. But what about my second use case and third use case? How do I scale that? So that's really, those are the three areas that are very important. The other things I would say kind of are important to bring to the table, I'll share them from a high level. Obviously, you got to have the right type of executive alignment with you, right? To focusing on the right business outcomes, the right use case. And then finally, like the way now we are organizing our teams, we created a role, we call it a CDE, which is a customer development engineer. So instead of our teams building POCs in our own environment and showcasing them to customers, and the customer has to start from scratch, actually, we are training our folks to build hand in hand with the customer in their environment, obviously non-production, but in their environment. So as we're building that prototype and we go through all of those phases that I mentioned to you, it is ready to go for them. We just hand it over. It's already in their environment, and that speeds things up for us.
Very much a win-win across the board. Geries, I want to take a step back for a moment and ask you, if you had to boil it down to say 3 key practices, what do the most successful enterprise companies do to ensure strong ROI from their AI investments?
To me, it starts with having the right executive alignment, focused on the right business outcomes, right? And so identifying the right type of use case and making sure that this is actually what we need to do that is going to give us those tangible results. It's going to make our customer experience better. It's going to allow us to do things better and so on. So you're starting with that first. The second thing is, I would say, call it building a continuous evaluation discipline that spans the entire life cycle. So evaluations from model selection, as I mentioned earlier, right? Picking the right size, cost, and capability type model, that's one. Now, as you are building, right, also introduce evals during your development cycle. So you can validate the accuracy against real-world edge cases as well, right? And as you move it into production, it doesn't end there. You need to have these evals in production to detect drift and ensure, the system continues delivering the business outcomes it was built to do, right? Investing in AI literacy is another angle, I would say, is very important. And it's the enablement of the team. Because to me, actually, starting with getting the management team on board, because they'll be the ones that will help you drive it across the organization. So that enablement of the teams and bringing that literacy where we need it is a critical last step.
Well, super clear 3 steps. Thank you so much. I love your examples, super relatable. Before we wrap, how do you see the AI landscape evolving over the, say, next 2 to 3 years?
I speak to customers a lot about this, and I like to, as I look ahead, I like to look back a bit. We've been helping customers on their AI journey for years now. And if you look at how AI has evolved, like initially it was all around ML, and ML brought us that predictive, right? If you look in financial services, it's like fraud detection, product recommendations in retail and so on. So it's that type of predictive. And then as we moved into generative AI, obviously it allowed us to generate creativity, that type of content, multimodal, the top use cases where code generation, intelligent document processing, chatbots, right? A lot of companies, like this is where we started. So that's what AI brought in. And where are we now? Like last year, we started seeing the adoption of agentic start taking off. And you start seeing the maturity of companies like AWS, obviously, and Snowflake bring the right type of platform that allows our customers to run their agentic workflows and agentic applications, because it's not just about running your agents, it's also making sure that you secure them, make sure that you have the ability to evaluate them, make sure you have the ability to monitor their performance. Like all of that, that comes part of what customers really need. That important part, like that got us to this point right now where we're seeing customers build agent workflows. So where are we going in the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years? Kind of setting it up for that. Now we're seeing actually agents that are goal-oriented. Agents are becoming autonomous. And I think in the next 2 years, up to 3 years, you're going to see fully autonomous agents that are actually communicating and collaborating with each other. This is, I think, where we're going with that. And the other thing I would say, data is the differentiator, right? You know, as AI becomes more autonomous, as agents become more autonomous, right? Architecture becomes the competitive differentiator. So this is, I think, where we together, I see the combination of Snowflake and AWS are there to help our customers through that.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. Such a pleasure sitting down with you, Geries.
Same here, Ryan. Thank you for having me as well.
And for the audience watching, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.